Boy. Well, yeah, boy. Y'all ready? Y'all ready, ladies and gents? Girls and boys, men and women, however you want to, you know. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready for this? Whew. I almost wasn't. But, how are you feeling out there? How are you, really? How are you? This is going to be huge. Let me tell you something. Let's give honor to Source, the creator, the Most High for all this creation. Whatever you subscribe to, whatever you believe. I love just trying to get this sun while I have it, while it's here, before it get a little chilly. Okay, come on, let's stand back for a minute. Boy, you want to talk about emotional roller coaster with everything that's happening right now? Shout out to you that's getting through this Scorpio season. My solar return is approaching in like a few days or a couple cycles on the 14th. Whew. Boy, am I going through something. Going through, but at the same time I can recognize like I'm in the storm, but I'm in the rainbow at the same time, or just becoming really aware of a lot of things. So let's give honor to Source, ancestors known and unknown. If this is your first time seeing me, greetings, peace, and love. We learn here to be the darkness in our own light, be our light in our own darkness. Well, yin and yang both in a way. So that being said, man, whoo, I really meant that. How you feel? Especially how you feel to those people who have dealt with emotional unavailable parents, that grew up with emotional unavailable parents, emotionally abusive parents as well. There's a lot of, I don't even know if I'm gonna get through all the topics today, but what I'm gonna speak about is even like how I even came to develop these, what I call emotional intelligence. And how I feel I came about to it is through my own woundedness, through my own shadow aspect of myself, my fears, talking about things that I would never talk about to no one else, but even facing the very things. If you asked me years ago, whatever it is, where I have seen myself like creating a YouTube, even with my arts, creating things as such to even speak about like things that are happening right now, currently in my experience, in my world, and throughout the world. These topics can be very triggering. I've accepted in my own world to be at peace in my own world. And I bring these things to you, it's like not from trying to be superior or trying to devalue anyone. This is not about that. Let me address that first, because the elephant in the room. This has a lot to do with the awareness of my own experience and the experience I know of others, and also the collective. So a lot of things I'm speaking about first comes from my own experience, and then from what I've seen in my lens and my childhood and so forth. So getting back to the topic at hand about emotional intelligence. Well, how did I get here? Well, I first learned from being emotionally intelligent, I had to learn to be emotionally manipulative. Let's use that oversaturated word, narcissism, right? I just love it. Let's use that word. I think I said on here before, on a previous video with a sister that I was talking about, like, I can acknowledge and say I was a narcissist unknowingly. And how could I admit to that and acknowledge that and call out that spirit, or call out that thing? Is, for one, I knew I grew up around it. That's the first step to your healing, is recognizing the wound. If I keep ignoring the fact of like I developed these behavior patterns from a person, that means that was their belief system. And that's what I'm gonna get into. In order for me to develop these emotional intelligence and become more in tune with myself, I gotta go within myself and see, well, what is my internal belief system? How do I view the world? And what do I believe about the world or believe about myself before anyone has told me? Now, if you need to rewind that, I can repeat it for you. I'll say it again. What in my world, ask yourself, how do I feel about the world? How do I feel about how my mother has treated me? How do I feel about how my father has treated me? How do I feel about myself? How do I feel about how the view on the world and its belief system, these structures, these corporations and so forth? How do I feel? And the reason I'm getting into this is because we have a fucking society and cultures that literally has numbed or has created generations of people who have numbed what I call repressed and suppressed their emotions for so long, and now here we are faced with it. Whew. Sip. And being that, from my experience, my first topic here, it's gonna get interesting. The first thing they tell you is take it to God or take it to Jesus. He will remove the burdens and take away all these things. Now look, I'm not going to argue with y'all about y'all belief systems. I'm not going to argue with people because I've been around people with different belief systems. I believe, or my own belief system that I developed, that truth, authenticity is above all religion. Because for one, ask yourself this. I've sat with people who have these religious beliefs. How would you have known what this character Jesus looks like if you never were shown younger? How would you have known religion or anything if you were not shown, or if it wasn't displayed, or if it wasn't portrayed to you, or if it wasn't forced, however you look at it? And that's even to people that look to this character that doesn't look like you. Like I said, you can believe in your life who this character to be, to each their own. But at least for some, why wouldn't it look like you? You know, this is to make you think and ponder and, analyze and be practical. Use your left or right brain, or as they say, logically. And then why has so much when it comes to a religion? Now, I'm gonna dive into the emotional aspect of this rather than just taking it to someone else outside of yourself, or taking it to or facing it yourself. Now, I had this question I asked someone. I was like, okay, well, what I'm going through, this so-called character that you say Jesus or whomever may not understand as a man. I'm not able to talk to him right now. Now, people may say, well, you can talk to him in prayer, but, some of us need that physical presence or something to, that reassurance or something to clarify or to validate that experience. I question, things of like, okay, how can you go along so much and before your generation, there's other countries and there's other perspectives on how certain things came to be. And then there's other pantheons or belief systems before this said character. What makes this character or this person so much superior than something before? And and it's like I tell people, I sit down, I'm like, well, I need to talk to this person. And when I put that in a more someone who grew up that did not have who grew up with emotional, unavailable, and abusive parents and people that he was around. I ain't never had someone, a father figure or someone, and this is real deep for a lot of us. It's like a lot of us never had. I can't sit here and tell this character to come here or this person that you want me to believe so wholly in, like, and tell him and sit across from this person and say, this is how I feel about you. Maybe I don't have to believe in that. Maybe I don't have to. Should I feel judged? Should I feel guilt or shame? Is that a sin? And so again, if I grew up right now, when I'm looking at things psychologically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, growing up in an environment again, I grew up in environments where there was where you had, all different denominations, and everybody believed something differently. Everybody's story came, even the Mormonism, all these things I have went through and learned and dug, and sometimes I didn't wonder why this character is always coming up this shade and never looking nothing like me. I have questions. Why is it a threat, or why is it a sin to some, or why shouldn't I question my beliefs? Why shouldn't I question your beliefs if your belief system is different? Because your belief system, that you believe that this man has blue eyes and blonde hair. Okay, so why can't the Creator or the Most High, or if you want to call him Jesus and I call him Yeshua, or Yahweh, why can't it look the way it looked for me? For me to feel a sense of empowerment and not see the control or the manipulation in the fact of that. How does that not play on how I show up as a darker man, or as just a human being experiencing this life? So I ask myself, why did she never ask me how did I feel when she whipped my ass? Why was my emotion dismissed when she felt like I deserved to be beaten or to be whooped? Why did that makes me question, at times where I sit here, like, made me question God or the Creator or the Most High. Like, why did I have to experience this? Why? So to some, it can feel like a gift and a curse. Why did I have to have that mother? Why did I have to have this father who abruptly left and did not want to decide to be there? And then now I'm here to face these father wounds. Why couldn't he protect me from that woman? Why does my mom have so much emphasis and so much faith and so much passion towards this character that she calls Jesus, and have so much of a deeper relationship with him rather than me, her own son? Then I have to learn the emotional disconnect in that, and see her father wound, to realize, like, mama, are you okay? How did you feel when your father walked out of your life? How did you feel when your mother and father did not stay together? Did you cling on to this character, this Jesus, to this ideology of this person because you wanted to fill a void? I have questions. Why did I have to have an emotional, unavailable parents or caregivers, or even people who felt that it was justifiable to whoop me, to beat me, to felt like that their my emotions did not matter? They didn't ask me after that ass whooping, how did I feel? How do you feel? How did you feel? No, because their response or their reaction was, they didn't care if I was a victim. I asked myself, like, never asking how I felt. And then here we are, a lot of us leading into these decisions when we come into our adulthood and realize, like, wow, a lot of these decisions we made off what? Because we've learned to numb ourselves. And mama and daddy, grandma, anybody never told us the importance of how we should feel. Then you got a culture and music like, fuck they feelings, fuck how she feel, yada, 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 yada. Then we repeat these things and we realize, like, do I want to tell my daughter that? Do I want to tell my son that? Because our women are programmed, they are emotionally programmed. That's how they are here. And then what do you have now? A culture full of women who are numb. Not all, but a culture full of women who are numb to their own emotions, who have suppressed their emotions for 30, 40, 50, 60 years through and from a mother wound from their mothers, because they've seen their mothers cling to this ideology of whatever character, or look outside of themselves and seek this unavailable partner or father or whatever spouse, and then through their inability to regulate their emotions, they go to God, or they go to Jesus, or they go to this father figure, or they go to not knowing how that isn't connected, or that this disconnect between them and the source or the God within them. So many might be angry. So many this may trigger. But ask yourself, mothers, women, who taught you how to regulate your fucking emotions, bro? You're talking to a man who was wounded and still unlearning the patterns of women who will look to an external or outside of themselves source or someone to regulate their emotions on how they feel, so they still are unfulfilled. They're still searching for God. They're still searching for this character, this father. I've already made peace in my world to where whatever comes, I'll be attacked. It doesn't matter, because the world is returning to balance. Because our women was always spiritual. Listen what the fuck I said. Our women were always spiritual. Matriarchal was spiritual before you seen this physical display of dysfunction in this patriarchal aspect, because the matriarchal has always been internal. And we all carry this feminine and masculine principle. I'm just a messenger. Hey, block me, block the message. It is what it is. I'm not here to convince. I'm here to speak to those who are aware that your emotions matter. And your emotions are like that of the oceans. They come and they go, sis. They come and they go, little girl within you. Little boy, they come and they go. But what? Let me speak more on it. Okay, internal belief systems founded upon a false identity, inauthenticity, no morals or integrity, truth or honesty. And what do we see right now? A society crumbling right before itself, because guess what? They don't teach you shit about regulating your emotions and honor your emotions as women and men. And guess what's happening? You hear that? You hear that? Oh yeah. In your silence. You know, in that silence, what's happening? The little boy and girl and you are crying. What is crying? Crying is an emotion. They're crying out while you hide behind this. Because there are no systems in place that honor that. That teaches you to honor and regulate your emotions. And what are we breeding? Unavailable fucking human beings, unavailable parents, unavailable caregivers, unavailable people who are available to go out there and conflict. What is that? Like developing and breeding conflict avoiding people, meaning your internal conflict. And so therefore, you're breeding a person, or you're preparing a person to avoid the conversations that they need to have with themselves and the people who they know who have caused some type of pain, which is emotion, which leads to some type of anger, which they don't realize they're repressing it because they choose not to talk to this very people. Or sometimes you have people caregivers who have passed away, and no one never asked them, how do you feel? I had an experience with someone. I had to tell them, I said, you know the most difficult thing about speaking and the most difficult thing about being called to do this shit? And throughout my whole 34 years, I almost forgot, 34 years, is no one asked me. My mother, you know the most challenging thing? And this is why I had to become at peace with in my world. My mother never asked me, son, how did you feel when I whooped you? How did you feel when I slapped you? Son, how did you feel when your father departed? Son, how did you feel when I took out child support on your father? Son, how did you feel when I didn't invest into your dreams? And how did you feel, son, when I emotionally abandoned you? Son, how did you feel? And these are things that internal things, like, why didn't my mother ask me that? And guess what we're left with into our adulthood? We're left with a void. And even in that void, I'm here to tell you, even in that even in that emptiness, and this is what you see a lot of people walking around empty, even in that nothingness, that's everything. A lot of us are sitting back, and I know a lot of you probably like, you better fucking cry. I'm telling you, because I can feel it for a lot of you when I say this. A lot of you are waiting around asking. A lot of you are sitting around asking yourself, why? Why didn't my father or mother ask me how did I felt when I was forced upon, when some of you went through rape, or some of you were sexually molested or abused and so forth? Why didn't they ask you, well, before they went into however they proceeded and moved forward with it, why didn't they ask you how did you feel? And it's not their fault. I can't speak for everyone, but it's you got to realize that these foundations that we have had before us have been built upon so many narcissistic things, so many control and manipulative power struggles when it comes to the fact of when the mother and the father was removed, and there was a power struggle between the mother when she was so conflicted with her emotions that she never got asked how the fuck did she feel. No one never asked our mothers how did they feel when that man was shot, when that man went to prison, and that man in there, that man in there, like, feeling what he's feeling. That's the only time where he get to sit with his emotions. And in those systems that was created that preyed upon these little children that never, these little boys that never had anyone to show them the importance of emotional intelligence, the importance of how to regulate your emotions when you're young. And now here they are emotionally impulsive. And then now here they are going out here joining, whether it was gangs, listening to certain music of these men and people who know what the fuck possesses them to do what they do, and are paid and are influenced to basically ruin and self-sabotage these young men's life. And now here they are behind bars. That's your system. That's your fucking system. And that's what's coming up. I call it out. That's what I'm here to do. Someone got to speak it. There's two types of people that are dangerous. The ones that know and don't talk about it, and the ones that know and don't talk about it, and the ones that don't know and be out there talking. It amazes me how we can have compassion for these men and don't know why it drove them to this mindset, this mentality of unaliving someone, or immediately putting them on medication and putting them inside of a psychiatric or hospital. When I know personally, a lot of us, the shit that we survived that we wasn't supposed to survive and get through, we are walking miracles because what? Shit, we grew up in a psych ward in our home where you have people who are mentally ill and people who have unhealed traumas and never face their fears. And here we are. We become the victims. We become the victims of that. But no one never asks us how we feel, bro. I had to say that to someone today. That shit really hit me, man. It's like I went through a lot, and I had to tell them, I was like, with all I went through in the past couple of years, no one asked me how I felt. This ain't no fucking sob story, bro. These are the men and the little boys. I got a nephew. I got little cousins. I got cousins that have been to prison, and their mindset is like, you will have little boys out there due to them having emotionally unavailable and mentally disturbed or distressed caregivers who never knew how to talk to them in a loving and healthy way. And here they are thinking that their relationships is supposed to create the same shit from women. And I see the same patterns in these young men that are walking right into the same shit that I've experienced. And I cannot save no one. I can only express and share a message, because that's how you break the generational cycle, by being fucking transparent. When you acknowledge the energy and the spirit that has been following your fucking lineage for so long. Some of us have had emotionally unavailable parents that just tell us, oh, chase the money, go to this career, son and daughter. And what about listening to our intuition? What do you think your intuition is connected to? It has a lot to do with your internal well-being, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being. But no, you have nothing in society. None of these structures teaches us about how it is to honor our emotions. We literally been in a culture or a place where it's like, yeah, fuck that, blah, 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 forget that, F that, forget that. And it's literally teaching us to numb ourselves and create a false identity around, a false hope on a progressing nation, a progressing country, a progressing society. Anything. And when you look at this country, how it is progressing, until we awaken to the realize, like, this place is so fucking wounded. You got so many people so guarded is because they're so blocked, because they don't even know how to regulate their emotions. Because they've been in society, they've been in these careers and environments where, well, don't bring your personal experiences to your workplace. Motherfucker, how do you not do that? You're basically telling me to numb how I feel and show up and, well, the customer's always right, or this person's always right. Well, what about how I've been wrong until I show up to this place and I'm sitting here trying to put this mask on as like, I don't feel that you're right, that I shouldn't show up like this. I feel like I'm being wronged, or not even just wronged. I feel like this is me not being my authentic self. And guess what happens from a personal experience? You're fired, or you're terminated, or you shouldn't be yourself here. And a lot of people have gone through this in career. I don't care what they do, whether they're musicians or artists or in every other way. As soon as they're called to be themselves, they're attacked, they're ridiculed. And we so quickly judge because we don't understand and comprehend that the world has never seen authenticity. The world has never seen the fucking integrity. Because we've been breeding, as I wrote in my notes. Men and women forced to suppress and repress pain and memories, leading to aggressive actions, which you have leading right to the prison systems. Because in school, the same school systems are taught to numb your emotions because they are not teaching nothing about emotional intelligence. They're not teaching anything about honoring your emotions. They tell you that raise your hand if you have a question. And then even if you give an answer, they're not asking you how you feel about that question, or how do you feel about this equation, or how do you feel about this teacher? Because this teacher seems like she have a little more favoritism towards these kids that don't look like me. That's what the system. You ain't asking me how do it feel like to be a darker man in this country. Ain't nobody asking me how does it feel to work alongside people that I know that's racist, that have this internal racism, or that have this internal structure. How does it feel to be a part of that religion? How does it feel to be with this partner that doesn't look like you? How does it feel? And none of us has been asked this question. Ask yourself. When the last time you asked yourself, how do you feel? Because we haven't been in something that teaches us to feel the fucking emotion, to feel the anger. Because you know why? Let me express my anger out here. And this is exactly why I went through an experience where I was not accepted or embraced, which I didn't mind, but it bothered me. It bothered me because I had to present that, because it affects not just my well-being, it affects the well-being of others. Because here it is, we have structures put in place that doesn't honor emotions. So how dare you show any type of emotion or any type of expression or authenticity or even some type of imagination or who you really are? Because a lot of these structures, whether it's school system, your military, anything, they dress the same, they look the same. It's all centered around narcissism and control. It's all about superiority and inferiority. And this is what your human race is. This is what y'all created. This is what y'all breeded. You breeded the colorism to make a child believe that just because they're darker, that they're ugly. And just because this person, when you look at this figure, the psychological warfare in that, how does that child feel about this character? How does this child feel about themselves? You never ask them that. Y'all never ask. This is your judgment. This is what you've created in this country and all these countries to make it seem y'all have so much emotional attachment to things that don't fucking matter. You have so much emotions attached to things, and you don't even believe in yourself to be great outside of your skin colors, outside of who you are. Because once you remove all these layers, what do you believe in? Men and women are forced to suppress and repress pains and memories, leading to aggressive action. Because this is a country, this is an environment, these are your leaders, these are people who have implemented these things contractually and spiritually, knowing that it would affect your well-being, leading all the way up to this very moment. How do you feel as a woman about how they attack your anatomy? How do you feel about when they say that this person has more so-called rights than you, when you genetically, or when you're born a certain way? I have people from all walks of life, and I sit back and say, well, if they want to be like that, let them be like that. That's how they feel. That's how they want to lead their life. So what? All this shit is about how people are attacking the fact of like what is keeping y'all from being at peace with yourself. It's your own internal conflict. It's your own emotions that you haven't dealt with internally, because this country has breeded people to be robotic, to people to think that artificial intelligence is more intelligent than divine intelligence. How do you think, if everything wasn't created from the Most High or source, this plays a part in evolution? So no one is more intelligent. You have to have hands. You have to have the mind to create that artificial. And when you look at artificial coloring, artificial whatever it is, that shit still doesn't have emotional intelligence. Check yourself. So no matter what people are creating, don't ever think that, okay, whatever they're creating has a lot to do with it doesn't have emotional intelligence. It will never be more intelligent than your divine intelligence. You are divine intelligence in the fucking flesh. You have to see what, again, men and women forced to suppress and repress painful memories throughout your school systems. That's what the gateway to your prisons. This is what a gateway to now y'all having all these degrees. But yet what it has, no one asked you how you felt about getting it, because you were so pressured into getting it. And then when you obtain it and when you got it, this is not for everybody, you still are unfulfilled. Emotionally unfulfilled, because your happiness has nothing to do with that. Love has nothing to do with what you obtain here. That joy has nothing to do with that, because if you don't love yourself through it all, you're just basically doing it for who, love? So again, men and women forced to repress painful memories, leading to aggressive actions, substance abuse, which is created off a system, preying on the childhood traumas, breeding emotional distress and unavailable caregivers, men and women, boys and girls, neglecting their well-being emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically, birthing more generational trauma, behavior patterns through kids. This is what your cycle is. This is what you're seeing. This is what is right now happening. There's your answer. And in that, what is your belief system? What is your internal belief system? Have you asked yourself that? What is your internal belief system on how you view the world and even your internal world? Your internal world is based off an external world. Your internal belief system is based off something fucking superficial, an illusion. That's the programming. You taking all this other stuff. And we all have done it. I've done it. To where I had to break free and realize, like, hold on, what is my belief system around how I view the world? I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to subscribe to that shit. I don't have to subscribe to black. I don't have to subscribe to being angry, whether it's beyond skin color. I speak on levels. I don't have to subscribe to religion. You can be angry and mad as fuck all you want to. I don't care. I don't have to subscribe to the fact of just because you feel that, you know, some people believe, it's all perspective. Like, just because you believe that This man is in this position that he's there because of whatever assumption or conclusions you come up with. I am not. No one could come along and tell me I'm like anybody else. That's my divine spark. That's my divine intelligence. Is that I know, I believe I have an internal connection or been in tune with myself. It's just like a radio. You tune in. You tune in. You got to tune into your emotions. They come and go. And what have we been doing? We've been more attached to the emotions of celebrities and other people. And y'all got so much emotional attachment to politics and other people rather than your fucking self. You let these other people dictate your life. You let what's happening in the world have more control over you, even having more awareness of who the fuck you is and how you even moving out here. When the last time you fucking breathed like that? When the last time you did something for the first time? No, because your belief system is based off what? Just imagine this. Let me give y'all this analogy. Everybody feel like their belief system is like, I said this years ago in a video. Everybody's experience is not the same when it comes to dealing with people that are, and I had to learn, this has been my experience. It's like everyone don't experience is not the same when it comes to people of different shades, of different religions or cultures. What is your belief system? Are you at peace with that? Whenever someone comes along and want to object and say, hey, I don't agree with that, okay, that's fine. You're not at peace with it. You at conflict with yourself to have conflict with me. You're angry at me because I choose not to be like someone else. I choose not to walk that path. At a point in time, all leaders become followers. Or at a point in time, all leaders were followers. You know, we all have been affected by, again, people growing up that had this belief system. So how are you going to tell me not to question something? Anyone that comes to create change, or what do you want to say, organize chaos, then you're going to create another order in life. Because I choose not to go by the orders and demands of someone else. Demands and commands are different. I command my own life. Commander and chief. I choose to rise above the things that I've experienced. I can talk about them. Because again, that was my mother and father's belief system on life. That is not my own. My daughter and other kids and other people, they have their own belief system. They will come into their own belief systems. They have their own ideology or perspective on how. Your perspective on me from my daughter would be, my daughter's perspective on me would be completely different than any other little girl that comes up. So ask yourself that. Everyone will have their perspective on you. No matter what. People look at me and assume whether he has tattoos or whatever it is, he can be a gangbanger, he can be a drug. That's their perspective. So what? Until they hear you speak. They can say whatever it is they want. Whether you're not in this tax bracket or whether you don't have this and this, that's their perspective. Because to the Most High, none of that shit matters. So again, it's deep when you have people that haven't really sat down and asked us, well, how do you feel? When the last time you asked yourself, how do you feel about that decision? How do you feel? How have you felt lately? And what's going on? When have you sat down outside of the hustle and bustle and trying to, force yourself to be at peace in someone else's world rather than your own? When the last time you sat with yourself? Boy, this Scorpio season, boy, is something real. I'm telling you, that the beauty of honoring your emotions, emotional intelligence is such a beautiful thing, because that's when you are able to intuitively pick up on the energy. You can, like, I've been around people, you can feel it. Even though they never say it, they've been so, I think that's the meaning of passive aggression. Like, especially just from my experience of being someone darker. It's like, I've been in so many places where I can notice where people are uncomfortable, so much so that they don't want to express or honor their emotions, so they'll dim their light. They'll play small for this career, for this company, or for these people, rather than being authentic, just like a child is. So the innocence in being and honoring your emotions. I grew up in a culture where they'll tell you a bitch, you a PU, using that term like you soft, you this and that, just because you have an emotionally unavailable caregiver or people in your family. Oh, that nigga weak. He weak. No, you know what weakness is? It's not being able to be in a community or people who can hold a space for you to express yourself and not manipulate that shit, because you've been in an emotionally manipulative society who will have you believing like, oh, it's okay to come over here and tell me how you feel. And we have breeded little girls and little boys off this shit. And that's why you see in our culture or in this society, humanity right now, that people are so defensive or so emotionally or so sensitive and so unavailable in places where they don't even know how to hold a space for themselves. They're a safe place. And that's all this really goes down to when you talk about, when you look at emotional woundedness or childhood traumas, that is created, the root of that is in their root chakra, is that a sense of safety. We haven't felt safe, men and women, because women, again, give birth to these men, matriarchal and patriarchally. So when you don't have women that feel safe, you don't just only feel safe. And this is what a society, again, going back to the fact of like how men or women are naturally looked at as a victim and men are naturally looked at as an aggressor. When in reality, I've experienced not feeling safe. I've been in partnerships or relationships or whatever it is where, what about my feelings? What about how I feel as a man? What about me not feeling safe? Because we overlook the fact of women can naturally, not all, but due to their emotional immaturity or due to the fact of whatever their traumas is, they can also bring harm to not only themselves but to those men. It's just not as justifiable or accepted in this world, in this culture, as we, and now that it's coming out. How do you think the men develop predatory behavior? Women develop predatory behavior. I'm pointing out things to where, again, where sometimes we're unconscious of the shit that we've been doing because of our wounds are so deep and we have numbed them and we have just brushed stuff over the rug or put a rug over it, and now it's rearing its face and it no longer can be hidden now. So now what? How do you think we heal? We quick to judge these people about the circumstances they've been in, but you don't know the depths of who they've been around. You quick to judge these people just because it may seem like they're in a high place and you don't even know. Why did that person display such behavior patterns? What was the connection there? That's how I look. I go to the root of what was the connection there. It seems like, well, that little boy, what happened in his childhood? What happened in the childhood of these so-called people that y'all so quick to judge and don't let the Most High judge them? Because their judgment is coming to them just like it is coming to you. We all, ain't nobody fucking perfect. I don't care what celebrities or whatever it is done what. That's not my place to pass the judgment. There's a thing called righteous judgment that's beyond whatever it is we can cast upon. While y'all sit there and clap for someone's downfall, y'all don't even see the root of what really going on with them. That's why I don't follow trends. I am the trend. The trend to really see, motherfuckers might need therapy, cuz I'm the same one. I can put myself in a place like, bro, he might need therapy. I wonder what really happened to him. I wonder what really happened to the fact of like, what really happened to his childhood? Like, was he touched on? What really happened to him? Because I started to realize why I attracted certain connections with people, whether unintentionally or intentionally or not. And then I start to see why, even in sexual interactions where, whether men or women, I realized, I'm like, yo, I start to sit with them and they start to, the more I start to reveal myself in a sense of like, be honest with myself, they start to let me know about their secrets, about their past, about their childhood, about how they like, oh, this has been going on for years. Men and women been doing this for years. And I'm talking about predatory behavior. People have been through stuff and they're ashamed and they're in marriages and all types of things and not realizing how that will affect their child because they're battling with said things spiritually. And no one ever asked them how they felt when their uncle, when their father, when their mother when this spouse or this person emotionally abused them, physically abused them, sexually abused them. Some people don't even have the access to that fucking, the therapy. And then the therapy that they're given, they're not consistent with it. They're afraid, they're scared, because when said questions are asked, a lot of people revert back to that very comfortable place because they don't feel safe. It's much beyond just going to therapy, man. It's deeper than that. Some of us had to be our own therapist. Some of us had to mother and father ourselves and realized, like, there will come a point to where the way and this is my perspective, the way therapy has been, I don't know much of therapists that look like me. And it's not to say they're not out there, but I'm talking about therapy can be in so many different ways. This is therapeutic. You got talk therapy, you got psychological, like whatever, all those other terms. You know, I went to school for psychology, but my awareness around it was just completely different to how the fact of just how controlled and structured it was. If you know, why do I gotta feel like a failure just because I don't pass, or I don't get an A, or if I don't do this? I'm like, bro, outside of this fucking class, I'm dealing with something. I need therapy outside of this, bro. Like I gotta, you know, my mom and dad never sat down and told me like how it would be to be a man of a darker shade, and you know how psychologically you got to deal with the fact of being in a country, or have been in a country, where it's like you got to look over your shoulder if you are speaking the truth, or you got to look over your shoulder just because you're in a said town or environment. Do I stand up? Do I speak with integrity? Do I run? Do I hide? So it's like, that's the beauty of learning. Like, again, belief systems. I had to develop this internal belief system over time of honoring, you know, letting young men and speaking to young men and talking to them about things like, I'm something you never witnessed. And the reason I say that, energetically speaking, not just in this body, but I'm talking about all things elemental, you know, elementally speaking, if that's a word, that, you know, me being who I am, you know, in this present, it's like that's been a process. Because a lot of men don't know, or have men that talk to them about, like, bro, you should honor your emotions. You should honor how you feel. And I'm not just telling you this because we have people out here, oh, they just tell them and leave them, and not realizing it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. We telling people, oh, they should feel, but what about the fact of, like, what after that? Hey, bro, you should get you a journal, bro. Write down how you feel, bro. If you're an artist, you should draw it out, bro. That's what I had to learn to do. I had to paint it. Hey, bro, you angry? Before you go out there and do something crazy or impulsive, man, draw it, write it out, journal it out. Hey, sis, before you go out there and make a decision, because based on the fact of, you know, you got father wounds or whatever, think about what you're doing before you go create that child. A lot of us didn't have that shit, man. A lot of us didn't have that. You're going to get the raw, uncut, and so forth. And now, here we are now with these consequences from actions or certain things that should have been told us, should have been, or could have been, but at the same time, we have to live with it. And it's not we should feel shame and guilt, because I felt that. I felt that shit where I thought, like, well, I don't bring another child into this world, but at the same time, I'm responsible. Now I can see the awareness as a man that to show that I can be responsible for my emotions, and then how I feel and how I should move. And so, you know, that son and or daughter can see the integrity, and like, this is how your father feel right now. I'm not happy with how I went through life, and I'm not happy with the people, because I have to honor my emotions. I'm angry with the consequences, or the, you know, I have to feel my emotions. I'm angry with how I was treated, how I've been treated as a darker man in this country. I'm angry with how I've been outcasted by a family who say they love me, but when I start speaking my truth about these traumas, or, you know, or these things that are not okay, I'm angry with that, daughter, son. I'm angry with that. And I have to honor that, because that's righteous anger. Now, the lesson and the beauty of that and the awareness is that I'm not going out there attacking no one. I'm not going out there purposely. You know, I had to come to awareness. I don't have to use drugs, or, you know, do what mom and dad did and make excuses or, you know, do what other people done just to try to escape it. Because that's the thing. Now that's moderation or that's discipline and things. I'm not telling people what to do and how to go at life, because ain't nobody out here just eating grass and, you know, doing all this other stuff. And, you know, it's been a progress. Because that goes off how, not only how you feel, but logically speaking. You know, I feel I should bust their ass. I feel like I should do this because that's the old me. That's why you can, when you look up my name, when you look up, y'all see Terrence Mighty One, but look, this is who I am. Terrence Hinkle Jr. When you look that up, you will see things where I dealt with the fact that what I've acknowledged on here. That's what my book talks about. From being abused to being an abuser to now being the holistic or healer, whatever term you want to use, to being able to honor the emotions that go through that. Honoring the fact that I was angry and still have to process the emotions, the repressed memories and emotions from being whooped on and knowing I deserve better from an unhealthy mother. Then accepting the fact of what I also hurt other people with. Then now moving on to what? Use these wounds, these internal wounds, whether from my childhood, and even accepting the fact of how this belief system that I developed, I don't have to question because it's off integrity and authenticity. And so there are women and or men, whether they were emotionally and physically abused from my own actions, whether I was aware of it or not, and accepting that and realizing I have to apologize to myself. And I've actually in the past seeked out those people, whether through my own terms or whether through the terms where they didn't want to speak. Because sometimes people, after things like that, people do not forget how you made them feel. And I had to accept that because you want to make amends. Make peace with yourself. I had to approach women that I went through things with. Whether they want to tell me their part and their role, I had to accept my role. And I had to go talk to them and apologize sincerely and forgive myself and ask for forgiveness and then accept it to be able to move on. Whether I wrote messages, whether I wrote letters and so forth, and still from my own experience, I'm not perfect. It's been a process, bro. The most beautiful thing through all of this is that anger, that frustration, whatever the emotion is, it is a guide to your evolution, to you blossoming. Because things in that water is dirty and murky, and that's your emotions. That's the internal you. Water is emotion, ocean, emotion. And what blossom from is that? Joy and pain are one and the same. And so with that, I had to accept the fact of like, this is who my mother was, but this is who I'm not. This is who my father was. This is who the men and women in my life in that age, this is who they were. Okay, that version of me, I no longer have to be, but I had to accept that that was a part of who I am and who I am blossoming to. I'm not going to neglect that. I'm not going to avoid facing that fear anymore about this is just who I am. It ain't about take it or leave it. I don't care if you take it or leave it. I've accepted the fact of this is just who I am. Ain't about take it or no. I have to receive it. I have to let go of it. I have to purge it. I have to continue moving on. And again, we were not taught these things. There was not a blueprint to how we were supposed to be a mother and father. A lot of our blueprints was foundations, like literally drawn out. Imagine a fucking blueprint. Matter of fact, I'm gonna give y'all this before I go. This is our blueprint. I'm drawing it out, like dysfunctional. And a lot of that literally, now for you that do know about blueprints, you know, a lot of blueprints may look a certain way to where like you're talking about a home or you're talking about something that can create it or, you know, room. When you see a blueprint or something, you know, it's completely different depending on what you're doing. but it's like more structured and balanced and more secure. Again, a lot of us, we came from people that were like this, all over the fucking place, emotions all over the place, unavailable, depending on your upbringing. Now, to unlearn that and let it go, we had to rebuild this within ourselves, something more structured. So ain't nobody gonna come along and tell me I should feel ashamed or guilty because of what I had to rebuild and recreate within myself. And through that process, I had to tell people, like, you have to go through the parts and really face the parts of yourself that wasn't so pleasant. And then the most challenging thing is not to beat yourself up over that. Like I said, my fatherhood, outside of just being a father, the beauty of before coming into fatherhood, you have to go through said levels of, you have to be a child first. Whether you want to use the term teenager or kid or child, you have to be all these things before you come into that. Whether you're a father or not, energetically, you still are a father to some, to many, and a mother. Because we carry both feminine and masculine energies, which both reflect mother and father energies and principles. So again, I had to go through those different parts of myself, and a lot of things I didn't see right away. I don't have all the answers. A lot of shit I did not notice right away until I got to in relationships. And then, the balance of life, when I had to seclude myself, when I had to go with myself. And a lot of us never had upbringings like that. A lot of us have been around people so fucking consistently for 20, 30, 40 years. And a lot of us was never around people a lot like that. So it's different. So a lot of us, for those who have been around people so long, you've been around people who belief systems have been centered around self-destruction, self-sabotaging behavior patterns. Narcissists, control, emotion and manipulation. Not only that, the music, the influences that they had. Look at the influences that your mother and father had. A lot of them had a mother and father themselves. A lot of them you're talking about mothers and grandmothers and so forth for generations who know nothing about emotional intelligence because they never were asked how they feel. They never got a chance or opportunity to be able to sit with themselves. And then guess who became the projections of all the anger and all the frustration? We did. It's not to blame them. It's to bring awareness to the wound. Your wound may not look the same as your mom and grandmother and father and all like this, but there is a generational fucking wound. There is a lineage. The generational cycle or ancestral cycle is the wound itself. The generational curse itself is the gift. Just as the pain, the emotional pain that I endured during my childhood, through every relationship, through all those different patterns, I had to recognize, like, bro, I had a deeper awareness now as I realized that when kids came into the picture, and not everybody gets there. Not everybody is aware. But you have a world that automatically puts people in this box or puts people in this category of criminalization and not looking at, it's all different types of perspectives rather than not getting down to the root of, like, what really caused that. You ask them how they feel before they went out there and displayed such behavior? No. Because then you have a society that, again, that has been breeding, again, emotionally unavailable people who are in these policing people who are already angry, who are already unhappy with whatever it is they got on and going on internally. Then they go out there and what? Justify unaliving someone. And it's not always that case, but you're talking about a society don't even know how they might have felt after that. And some people might not care because you don't even know. They don't ask you how did that mother and father feel? How did that family feel after that? You don't know what is built up after that people carry. Because they got to grieve and accept. If they even do accept. Look at your funeral home, same shit. All this stuff is designed this way and it's crumbling. To keep people grieving. To keep people in a space. If they don't pay for this and get them buried, rather than looking at stuff where to celebrate their life and move on, you got people, it's so many different perspectives. Again, this is just perspective. How these things are designed like that to keep people in that stuck and grieving place. There's so many things that are exposing the fact of, again, I keep telling y'all, these things are returning to the spiritual aspect where we honor things, where we celebrate it. Humanity don't celebrate shit but themselves. They don't celebrate each other. Look how they celebrate. Look how they celebrate. Everything is centered around themselves rather than celebrating each other. And this is how you're going to see the coming about from what had already been happening, the Piscean age, to the what we're already in, which is Aquarian age. It's like you have to see the transitioning from the center point of just the opposite of Aquarius is Leo. So we're literally transitioning out of a society or these false identities that we have developed through ourselves, all these programmings that are around like it being about everybody else but ourselves. But in it being about ourselves, we'll be able to see the oneness in it. I know that some of y'all get that because the internal aspect on a higher level or a more deeper level internally on a soul level is that's what the divine mother and father represents. It's how we all connect. The divine mother, the divine feminine rising. In order for the divine feminine in us to rise, you have to see the divine wounded, the wounded femininity. And we all have carried that wounded femininity within us, whether we dealt with it through our mothers and fathers from a man perspective or a woman perspective. And we all are currently clearing out the wounded masculine. And I was telling someone, like, in order for you to have a wounded masculine, the wounded feminine had to give birth to the wounded masculine. And that's matriarchal to patriarchal. But again, we both carry feminine and masculine principles. So how that would look is, again, a lot of your constructs, a lot of your corporations or whatever it is, when you remove the emotional aspect, you're removing the feminine aspect of everything. And that's both in men and women. So when you remove that, then you have a society that is so wounded that they don't honor their emotions. So they don't know how to regulate their emotions. So they go out and you see this unaliving or murderous behavior or bloody and warlike mentality with your gaming systems, with your gangs and with everything societally in humanity. So, okay, so how do you do that? Okay, you have people who are heartbroken through those very things where you're talking about going to different countries, unaliving innocent people, or, through greed and through self-righteousness, through control and manipulation through the media, trying to tell people, oh, well, this is what it is and this is why this country did this. This is why we're going over here. And then what are you left with? Mothers and fathers or people who are pretty much, they have no care about peace. They only know that. They only know war. They only know destruction. They only know to unalive, ill, that word, seek and destroy. And naturally, again, it's kind of natural order, but at the same time, it's like that hasn't always been what it was. You have people that don't value harmony and peace and so forth. So when you remove the emotions and when you have emotionally unavailable women that don't honor their emotions, oh, F him. And it's basically saying you're separating the man from you. And in reality, when you look at woman or woman, men is in the word. When you look at her, you take off the R, it's he. I'm just trying to get y'all to look at this shit practically and logically. When you think that someone is separate from you, there's a oneness in it. And you gotta realize a lot of us, again, I grew up in this because I wanted to separate my pain, which I have my own battle. I wanted to separate my pain from what my mother and father experienced. And in reality, they're coming together, and what they acted out was a part of how the fuck I was created. Emotionally, mentally, physically. Whatever they were going through, whatever they're experiencing. And this is where we develop these belief systems and behavior patterns, whether we want to ignore it or not. And so that immediately where you see, again, I've talked about in the previous video, this versus. Boys wear blue, girls wear pink. Or you see more of an aggression or, in a physical sense where it comes to men. And that's because of what? Women just hold it in. Our women just hold the aggression in because they haven't had an outlet. They just will do it more emotionally. We would just do it more assertively. It's not to say we both don't have emotions and cannot do it assertively. It's just how women, are created from my belief system and men. It's not to say we're not emotional and logical. The imbalance comes when we realize that some of us, from my experience, have been around women who have been so wounded that they don't know how to regulate their emotions. So guess who becomes the victim? You're naturally, as a child, the victim of their anger, of their unregulated emotions. So then, as much as they don't want to hurt you, they do it. And at the same time, they have a sense of compassion. But whatever their attachment is to that man, or whatever it is their father wound is, sometimes it's confusion in that, because they never were taught how to balance and be neutral and how to honor their emotions and be logical and see logically, like, how this would affect this little boy in the long run. How, a father not being there for the daughter, how they not seeing the importance of it in that. Like how that will affect her logically approaching or being approached by men, or, so forth. So, this is what we're being restored with. Oh my gosh. And I see that, like, a lot of things I've been experiencing, like the Most High put me in the place around a lot of growing up with women in the wounded place, just to surround me with women that will need guidance in a way, or need to really see in a man's perspective, or a more masculine approach, energetically speaking. Because again, the feminine starts from within, but for me to speak it is more in the masculine way. So it's not just not dealing with gender. It's just for them to see the approach that I get you, I see you. And when I say, how do you feel? How are you? Ask yourself that. When the last time you had a man or someone be like, hey, how do you feel? How do you feel about the fact of, I made this decision? How do you feel about that relationship? How your father treated you? How did you feel about you doing this, or, me making it? It's so many things that go in with that, because that's how women are. And when they haven't had that, how do you feel about these people attacking your anatomy? How do you feel about, things that's going on in the world? How do you feel as a woman? And see, what that does is that when we create healthy dialogue like that, we'll realize that our emotions, that also connects us, because we have an emotional body. Then spiritually we can unbind and unblock these things that are within our heart, why she doesn't feel safe. And it's different for every woman and little girl and so forth, men and women, because whatever they experience is based off their perspective on life. And if it's sexual, then sometimes most likely it's going to be rooted in, well, how do you feel, or how have you felt when that happened? Okay, well, why? Then that leads into the conversation possibly, like, well, why did you have this behavior pattern with men? And a lot of that deals with the fact of, a lot of these women didn't have that structure when it came to a man being there to warn them, or to even guide them to not to go down said path. Same thing with men. We didn't have, our mothers to help us, guide us to the fact of, like, how we should honor our emotions, which we have an intuition just like women do. So when you don't have women honoring their intuition, or honoring their emotion, or honoring who they are internally, because it's been blocked through whatever they have experienced, then you have women that are unintentionally, or for some intentionally, or not aware that they're not only through their misguidance, they're misguiding the nation or generation after them. So I say these things, how important emotional intelligence is a lot of you are going to come online and realize, like, your emotions are a guide back to yourself, and a guide to what has really been happening to you and your lineage, and why your mother feel the way she feel towards you. And you're going to realize it's not your fault. Her jealousy, her envy, maybe her, anger, or whatever it is. And you start to realize, like, well, mama, I get it. What happened? You ever ask your mama what happened in her childhood? Or how did she feel when dad did walk away from that, whether they got divorced or whatever happened, that split? No one ever asked our mothers. No one ever asked a lot of people how they feel. That's what really got me to even bring this video about, is like, it really hit me, because those important questions, when they're trying to distract us or tell us, oh, go to school, make money, do all this other stuff, no one really asks us how we feel about this shit. What is our perspective on it? Let alone our kids, because that's important. When we get more in tune with ourselves, we'll realize that that divine feminine energy is what connects us all. That darkness that people are afraid of. And when I say darkness, people, oh my God. No, that spiritual aspect is what connects us all. And then when you see physically what has been this illusion of what's been separating us, you become more aware that it's a balance, that it's beyond that. That's what we're reconnecting and being restored with, is that spiritual part of ourselves. You know, that divine spark, that what we're all a part of, that oneness. So again, a lot of you don't know why you're going through what you're going through, but you never ask yourself, how did you feel throughout whatever you have experienced or where you are now, and even what your mother went through. How did she feel? And a lot of that shit will bring you deeper into a deeper awareness with yourself and her. If your mother and father is there. And, you know, for you that do not have it, ask yourself that. You know, I don't know, I may have to create something like that, man, to where it's like I have to create something to where I'm able to hold a space for people like that. That, you know, mothers and fathers are not here, and I'm able to just interpret it or give them the set answers or certain things on how they should go about it. Because I just feel like that's me accepting like that role of what I'm here to do. Because a lot of people don't have the answers. And it's not to say I have all the answers, but I'm just naturally given a gift. As the more I come in tune with myself, I realize like emotional intelligence is being more in tune with the feminine aspect of who we are as men, which connects us to women. Or yeah. And so I can see how that would just lead me into, I think this is something I already accepted, I'm just speaking it on here, but speaking to more of a lot of our women that, you know, don't have answers or the clarity of what they're really going through. And even when it comes to their daughters and sons, because it's you know, a lot of us are here to just do that. Something the world never seen and witnessed. Because I get you. I see you. Because I am you. Even though our experiences are not the same and you have your own individual aspect, there's a oneness that, you know, rest in power, rise in power to Frankie Beverly and Maze. You know, the song We Are One. And, you know, we so easily judge, and I realize, like, his message was to show, like, no matter what we do, we are one. And that's the biggest picture people or misconception we have on life, is that we are one. Once we start to realize, when we really sit down from people and have these dialogues, you'll realize how much that can connect you outside of skin color. What can connect you to this woman and her man emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. Because that's what's being restored, is that's the thing we've been ignoring, is that emotional part of ourselves. We all experience this human experience through and from emotion. No matter where you are, I don't care how numb you come, I don't care how gangster, I don't care how independent you want to be and how much money, whatever it is you have obtained, you still have emotion. You still get angry. You still feel what you feel. A lot of us have went through depression. And depression, when you depress something, you repress, you know, and you suppress. It's terminology. You can depress something, which eventually will lead to, like, you either repressed it or have repressed it. Like repressing something. And then you sub, which is push it down throughout the years. And how could I say D is like, you know, like, I guess it still correlates with it all. Like, eventually, I feel like deep depression is like, they got their whole analogy from it, but I like to come up with my own shit. Like, sometimes we don't even realize we're going through it, but it's like, I look at the depression as like, it's written all over your face. It's just when you don't accept it. And then repressing something is like you continuously push it down. Suppressing something throughout the years is just like, it's been there and you just numbed yourself throughout, because submarine. So it's like, it's there, you just don't want to acknowledge it. And it's similar to like depression. But again, look, y'all, have your own belief system on things, research it, however you want to go about it. That's just I just give visuals of things. So that's just me. So take care of yourself and know that your emotional wounds and pains are just guides to your emotional intelligence. Peace and blessings. Shalom.